Welcome back to Trees and Lines. We're at the Trees and Utilities Conference, and we have Jeff Wissing from Holy Cross. And welcome, Jeff. Appreciate you coming.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I really appreciate the time and being here with you today.
Yeah, you got the best time slot of the day. No loud chainsaws, nothing. It's all going to be easy. So.
Yeah, perfect.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and about Holy Cross.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am what I've referred to myself a few times as somewhat of a homegrown utility vegetation manager. I didn't jump into this and go to college or anything like that. I took a job at a utility this summer after high school, just dragging brush and throwing it through a chipper. They kept me on through the winter and offered me a full-time position in the spring. I went ahead and took it. I mean, I looked at the benefit package and what a cooperative or a utility in general provides, and I took that and I guess just kind of worked my way up the ladder as trimmer, climber, lead trimmer, foreman, and I took over the vegetation department about 7 years ago.
Wow. Maybe just talk a little bit about Holy Cross, like footprint. We talked a little bit offline. You know, it's a kind of in a sweet spot where it's not too small, not too big, and it affords you guys kind of some ability to kind of own some things on your own. So maybe talk a little bit about Holy Cross as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're located about 40 miles. Our headquarters is located about 40 miles north of Aspen, about 60 miles west of Vail. So we're right in ski country.
So like the worst place to be. So
yeah, no,
most beautiful
absolutely.
part of the country.
It's been terrible all these years. You know, living
exactly.
in the mountains and climbing trees.
How do you hire us?
But a sensitive customer base, I'll bet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, yeah, we have about a little over 3,000 miles of distribution line. We're primarily a distribution system. We service, I believe it's 7 ski areas.
Okay.
So has proven to have some challenges and also some benefits financially.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, very interesting.
So, and Jeff and I had a little chance to catch up and talk a little bit about his program, and he's from a technology standpoint. I'd like to hear more of that because it is becoming such a big, part of what this industry is looking at, from the artificial intelligence and the imagery and everything else. You've kind of been on the leading edge of that, and really, taking this on and really leveraging it to your advantage.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that we're the tip of the spear, but we're definitely up close to that. We jumped in with Overstory and partnered with them. I believe it was 2019. We were actually one of their legacy clients. So through that, we were able to really collaborate together and help each other. We said, here's what we need in the vegetation management space, and they were able to tailor that platform to really benefit us so that we can see what we have. And then they've taken that platform out to different utilities from there on and vastly improved that platform based on what the utilities have provided back to them. So it's been real beneficial for both of us. I think it's been a lot of fun to experience and a lot of fun to grow that. We're really seeing, out in Colorado right now, the prolonged, what are we in, our 17th year of drought, has really taken effect on some of our urban and rural forests. So we're really seeing a lot of die-off, whereas encroachment is not such a big issue,
problem,
but wildfire being the number one, enterprise risk for Holy Cross is really first and foremost with our board of directors. So we're really looking at how do we mitigate this, developing wildfire mitigation plans, talking even public safety power shutoff now.
Yep. The wildfire discussion, I think once it became a story that extended beyond California, everyone's got to sort of think about it now because every footprint, potentially has like some level of exposure. So we've generally kind of seen that across the industry that like utilities are kind of assembling, working together a little bit, sharing ideas, sharing, information to, and I've heard great things about Overstory. So that's great that you guys are so digitally plugged in for such a small outfit. So yeah, I guess the topography of where you guys are located does make your job a little bit complicated, right?
It does. So we've, historically had a 5-year trim cycle.
Okay.
A lot of that area, it's not a start at point A and go to point Z and turn around and start over, because a lot of those areas are not accessible at certain times of the year.
Yeah.
So you really have to plan your cycle around when can you get to where you need to do the work?
Right.
When can you get crews in there? What makes the best sense? And So there's been some difficulties with that. We've worked it out, and with Overstory, we've kind of moved now into what I call a cycle plus approach. I think the end result is always looking towards being completely data driven. I don't know that we can get there right now with where the technology is and where the labor force is, but I think what we're doing right now is, like I said, called Cycle Plus, is we've brought on more crews, we've brought on more labor force, and we've taken a couple different crews and set them directly out onto where that data has shown us that we need to attack first.
Right. Yeah.
So you kind of like where you're at, and I got to think about that. Yeah, you all have some pretty high-end customers. And
that is correct.
And then you're also managing the dynamic of being right in the middle of, surrounded by national forest, probably. Mm-hmm. You're having to balance those two, because those customers, they want those ski lifts to run. During the wintertime. And so and then you have to balance what the Forest Service is expecting of you so that you're protecting their resource while you're doing that work. So how do you kind of balance those two?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question, and it's really site specific with the members, which members you have, the kind of Aspen area and Vail area. You have some movie stars up there, you have people with a lot of money, and to be perfectly honest, a lot of those people don't really care about their trees, because they take the approach of, I'll just plant more.
Right.
So it's definitely a juggling act, especially with some of the stipulations set forth by the Forest Service and some of the regulatory requirements that the Forest Service sets.
Tetris.
So, that's very astute. Yeah, it very much is like a game of Tetris.
Yeah.
Making the right piece fit in the right hole.
Yeah.
So bringing in technology into a small company, you must have learned a lot of lessons. Any advice for other small co-ops that?
Yeah, I think what we first did with Overstory, and then also this year we're jumping into the LiDAR space, so we're trying to figure that out and Tetris that together. But one of the things we learned, or that I did right off the bat, is when we did a little proof of concept with Overstory, because the technology sounded to me too good to be true. So I wanted to kick the tires and check the radio system before I bought the Jaguar. So we did a whole bunch of field validation. We had crews out just validating everything that they said. We did find some things through that we were able to work with them on, and like I said, they've been very, very helpful on the collaborative side. One of the things, for example, that we found was, so they were doing all their measurements based on if you were in Kansas.
Yep.
Well, that doesn't exactly work when you have a pole on top of a valley that spans a valley and a pole on top of the other one. The platform was saying, yes, these trees are encroaching within a meter, and when you actually drive out to the site, you see, no, those trees are about 60 feet below the line right now, and they're good. We don't need to do anything. So it was really working back and forth and making that collaborative culture with the vendor to make it work.
That's my view of technology, right? Like, it's never going to be a perfect fit. It needs to be molded and customized and sort of go through some type of iterative loop so it starts to understand the system, right? So it gets smarter, and it needs the human eye and the kick the tire element for it to be effective. It's not just out of the box ready. It never is. Right? No matter what software or technology you have. So that's great that you have that patience, I guess, is maybe the word, to work with an Overstory and collaboratively build that. That's great. Is your team as plugged in the way you are, or are you kind of the one leading all of that effort?
I would say I'm kind of the one leading it all as far as the vegetation management program itself. I do have a couple right-of-way inspectors they're very astute at it now. So they're really able to take some of this technology that we've worked on and bring it out to the crews and make a plan going forward, to really get through the cycle and get through more efficiently.
Yep. Oh, wow.
Kind of segueing on what Tej was saying, having been in your shoes managing programs for utilities, sometimes you try to, implement these new programs, and within the utility, you've got doubters, and you just say, they may be silently doubting what you're going to do, or maybe vocal. So, I mean, did you, after you've done this, you've seen the success now, did they come back and do it and he says, that really was, this is a really good way to help us, manage our risk. So, I mean, have you converted individuals within your organization, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest with what, the wildfire risks that we're seeing, our board of directors has been great about it all. They've said, hey, they hadn't necessarily given me a blank check, but they've said, hey, do what you need to do and report back to us. And I mean, that's why, I went out and did all the due diligence and made sure, like, hey, this is actually something that is viable and can work, and then report back to the board of directors. So there wasn't a whole lot of pushback, maybe kind of at the beginning, but it was kind of a decision as a team to go forward in this direction.
So you said you're unique in that you have in-house crews. How many crews?
Right now we have 2 in-house crews. We did bring on a couple contractors this year just because we're trying to keep up on the cycle, moving to this Cycle Plus approach. We went to 100% in-house in 2011. The crews that we have they're great crews. I really found, because of the size of Holy Cross, that this is a viable solution. We really see that these crews have buy-in because they live there, it's their system, they take ownership in it, and they really care a lot more. So we've been able to build up that culture and also, that culture of safety among the crews.
No, that's great. A thoughtful sort of approach, right? Because ultimately, like, they now have your culture, so.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, the product that we can provide to our members, it shows in how they approach their work and what they do.
So, and knowing, because I was, like I said, in your shoes for many years working for utilities, you just hosted UAA's Vegetation Manager Summit. So how did you get involved with that? Because that's, not a lot of utilities wouldn't support their employees to do something like that. So, but that, for you to step up and host for the whole country, that's pretty incredible.
So the very first UVM summit I went to was in Daytona, Florida. It was 4 years ago. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed that it was just specifically designed for UVM managers, vendors, contractors. They're intentionally left out so that the UVM, the managers, can sit down and really talk about the pertinent issues that face them. And really come up with some solid best management practices that are actionable taking back to the utilities. So I really enjoyed that. It's probably one of my favorite summits that I go to every year. At the end of that, I talked to Dennis Fallon in Daytona at the end of it and said, I think Holy Cross would be willing to host one of these years. And didn't really ask my leadership team if that would be okay.
Always a good way to go. Just get it done and then.
Kind of came back and said, hey, team, we're going to do this. And they said okay, and they were all about it. And we hosted in Glenwood last year. It was really good. Took 3 topics. First was consistency in contract language, which phenomenal presentation from Brian Sprinkle on that. Amanda Opp took the next topic, which was, she's great. And actually, she is going to host next year.
I heard that.
Her and Chuck Shepard up in Kalispell, Montana. Her topic was contractor safety. And so that was kind of a discussion among the managers saying, who is ultimately responsible? Is it the contractor? Is it the utility? And really the takeaways that came out of that discussion were, it's not one or the other, it's both. You have to build that culture of safety with each other and do it together to benefit both entities. And then, and the third was Vency Korchkov. I might maybe always butcher his last name.
I know of him. He was also, I think, Edison for a while.
So he did. He kind of wrapped up the summit with elements of a tree hazard program. Creating those metrics and kind of standardizing the terminology across the industry. So a lot of good discussions, a lot of good breakout sessions.
That's fantastic.
I mean, any utility vegetation manager out there that's listening, if you feel like you want to be involved in something like this, it's a phenomenal experience.
Let's say theoretically, I pluck you, and I'm like, Jeff, you're now in charge of the largest utility in the United States. Do you think that a lot of your ideas and things that you've been able to successfully implement are scalable, or would you think it's a little bit of, hey, I could probably incorporate some of this stuff, but I'm not sure it works with a large footprint? Like, you're obviously very thoughtful. You seem like an incredible critical thinker. I'm just curious as to see, like, you see what's going on around you in the country, right? There's some people that are doing things in a fantastic way, and other people are doing things in a terrible way, right? So how do you think about that from a scalability perspective?
Yeah, and I have thought about that pretty frequently. I mean, just thinking about bringing a program completely in-house.
Yep.
I think, like I said, because of our size, it works.
Yep.
I wouldn't even begin to imagine how you would do it, at a larger IOU, a PG&E,
Yep.
or a Duke or a First Energy. I don't think you could.
Yeah, I think it's too complicated.
Yeah, you could maybe bring a few crews in-house and hotspots. So to speak to scalability side of it, I think you would just have to incorporate bits and pieces as a whole.
Yep. Oh, that's really interesting. Wow. Well, Jeff, I mean, this is fantastic. I'm happy you could join us, and we pulled you out of paradise from Aspen and Vail to Fort Worth. Though, no, this was very interesting. Thank you so much for carving out some time for us.
Yeah,
really enjoyed getting to know you and listen about what you're up to. Sounds like you guys are doing great things. So continued success. And
yeah,
it was a pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah, It's been very exciting, and I appreciate the opportunity to sit down with you guys.
For sure, absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
That's it for this episode of Trees and Lines, brought to you by Iapetus Holdings. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify. If you have any questions or comments on any of our episodes or ideas for topics or guests, we'd love to hear from you. Please contact us at treesandlines@iapetusllc.com. We'll chat with you soon.